I'd like to call Muhlenberg Township Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, November 15, 2024 to order. All please rise for the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for the memorial moment. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a memorial moment for Rita Ettinger, who passed away on October 15, 2021. Rita was the mother-in-law of Planning Commission Board member Carrie Good. Thank you. Good evening, Morris. There was an executive session held before tonight's meeting, for the record, please. Also, just for the notes, Mr. Setley actually was unable to attend tonight, so if you have any legal matters, we'll have to follow up with him. We have two public presentations. For the sake of time, I'm just going to ask, I'm going to let Mr. Hunter go first, so we can get him home and fed. So go ahead, Mr. Hunter. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, Commissioners. David Hunter. I am the Executive Director of the Berks County Planning Commission. I am pleased to present this committee, this award rather, to you. When I started with the county, I told my staff that I wanted to be an award-winning planning agency, and you are helping me fulfill that promise. So congratulations. The Pennsylvania chapter of the American Planning Association is awarding the Jim Dietrich Park and it designated as a great place in Pennsylvania. Congratulations. Hang that someplace.
Hang it right here.
Yeah. All the best to you.
Put it over here. See. All right, moving on to the next presentation, Corey Johnson here from, I'll butcher the name of the firm, so there you can introduce yourself. Thank you for coming, Mr. Johnson. About during our budget workshop, if anyone attended or for those who attended, as you may or may not know, we have received a significant amount of funds from the American Rescue Act, funds that have to be specifically utilized for certain purposes. Through conversations with our finance director, we thought it would be worthwhile to talk to someone who ensures that we're utilizing money appropriately. So as a municipality of our size, we'll make sure that the funds are appropriated the right way. So long term, we don't have to eventually maybe give them back if we do something that we weren't supposed to do with funds. So through some different organizations, Corey's firm came highly recommended. So and I know those are numerous municipalities, so I'll turn it over to him, and please have the board ask any questions that you have for his presentation. So thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for your time. I'm Corey Johnson with Zell & Koskiak, so you probably couldn't pronounce that right. Maybe 1 out of 100 get that. We work with government solely. Actually, my day job is an auditor. I audit $1 billion of federal funds every year around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I got drug into this last year. Allegheny County is one of my biggest clients. You probably followed what happened here in Berks County. Allegheny County got $200+ million of the CARES Act funds. Now, mind you, the American Rescue Plan program is an extension of the CARES Act. So they started calling saying, hey, how do we spend these funds? And I think from that moment on till I stand here right now, I have eat, breathe, and sleep American Rescue Plan and CARES Act. So we help municipalities, counties, et cetera, through the process head to toe. Where we start is what are your goals? I don't have a cookie cutter approach. I will tell you this, I don't have a dog in the race. I don't care how any of my clients spend their funds. I just care that you spend them eligibly. That's my reputation on the line. Last year, we were able to help counties eligibly spend $400 million. And one of the big differences from last year to this year, counties were being monitored every month by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. They were basically on a 1-month lag. We're in unknown waters right now because Treasury has taken on monitoring everybody. I mean, they only monitored, for instance, in Pennsylvania, 7 counties last year. The Commonwealth monitored everybody else. Treasury is monitoring every county and every municipality across the country. I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, Treasury is creating an office to do this. In my mind, I'm a risk guy. So in my mind, there's more risk than ever that 4 or 5, 6, 7 years down the line, you're going to get a call and saying, hey, why did you, what was the basis that you gave funds to that EMS facility for? And if you don't have that documented right, you're going to be paying the funds back. So I think that's where we are. We're in a little different world this year than we were last year. Currently advise about 45 counties in Pennsylvania and other states, work with about 200 municipalities. So again, we work on helping you achieve your goals with these funds. There's a lot you can do with them. We are working off an interim rule right now. Treasury has stated probably a month and a half ago at this point that the final rule would be late into the fall. Whatever that means, that they, it's one of those, last year we've seen it, we've already seen it this year with the American Rescue Plan so far. It's an evolving machine. They're building this ship as they're flying it. It came out in May, they changed it 5 times through July 13th, and it's been radio silence ever since. And so they're waiting, I believe, for the final rule to come out. But there are still a lot of things you can do right now under the interim rule. And so that's what a lot of my clients are doing. I have some clients that want to sit in the sidelines and say, hey, we're going to wait till the final rule comes out. And we're, we'll get our plan together and put it into action at that point. So I'm sure you have all heard a lot about the American Rescue Plan. Part of why I'm here is to help answer any questions you may have. Seeing a lot of things done across the Commonwealth. Probably one of the most common questions I ask is, can I get money to my fire company? You can, there's ways you have to do it. There's ways you have to document it. Probably more so than ever, what matters is how you document stuff. Every T needs to be crossed, every I needs to be dotted. And so I spend a lot of my time helping my clients document why something's eligible. There's also reporting to all this, and the reporting, frankly, looks like a nightmare. It's definitely different than we had last year with the CARES Act. It was rather easy. This year, Treasury came out with 66 account codes that we got to fit every expenditure into. And a lot of those account codes actually say you got to provide all the statistical data as to, how is these funds helping a disproportionately affected area. And they haven't come out with examples of how to do that. So that's kind of where we're at. This whole thing's evolving as we go. Our program, one of the things we've created a frequently asked question. So literally every question I've been asked by all my clients, I have a live document that I share with all my clients. Probably everything you can think of is in that document. But I add to it every time I get a new question, I add to it. Every time the rules change, I'm here talking to you about them. Here's your new options. Have you thought about this? Here's what this township in Western Pennsylvania is doing. Here's what this township down by Philly is doing. And so a lot of it is just bringing knowledge to the table and bringing ideas that maybe you've thought of, maybe you haven't. And again, trying to help you achieve your goals. Last but not least, where I spend just as much time as part of this program is following all the other funding streams. Last year with the CARES Act, there were, the Wolf administration probably had 6, 7 other funding streams that came down that were kind of CARES Act oriented. There's going to be 30 to 40 over the next 3 to 5 years as a result of the American Rescue Plan. The infrastructure bill that just passed, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, that's a big one that we're monitoring. I read every draft piece of legislation that comes out of DC. That's my put me to bed type recipe. But how's that going to be administered? How does that affect you? Can you get your hands on that, etc.? Remember this: you're getting a piece of the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Your bucket that came out of was $362 billion bucket. There's a big gap between 362 and $1.9 trillion. There's overlapping funds that are already out there sitting in Harrisburg right now. There's hundreds of billions of dollars that's not getting out into the street. So one of the things we do is we also help advise the state trying to get those funds out to the street. And how will they help our clients? So for instance, if you were looking like, hey, I want to do this $1 million stormwater project, perfectly eligible project. One thing you may want to ask yourself is, can I buy a little time and can I see if I can get my hands on some of these other infrastructure funds coming before I spend my American Rescue Plan funds at it? Does that make sense? You want your dollars to stretch as far as humanly possible. So,
Thank you, Corey. And I think first, look at Dawn, if she has any questions. I think if everyone saw the proposal, just, and obviously one of the board's questions always is, the cost of the services of your firm can be paid through the Rescue Act.
That's correct.
As an eligible
Yes.
expense. So, I know that came up before, one of our questions, but I'll turn it over to Dawn and the rest of the board if they have any questions.
No, I don't know that.
You have any questions? If we were to spend the CARES Act money on road replacement, and then along comes the infrastructure bill that just passed, the bipartisan bill. And are we gonna wind up having to, are we gonna lose money because we're already spending on?
that's a great question, and that's one of the things that you can't answer right now because we don't know what the actual legislation looks like in terms of can you apply for something when you've already spent the funds, basically, to reimburse yourself. I don't know if they're gonna allow that. Some grant sources do allow you to do that, some do not.
So the CARES money will allow you to replace roads?
No.
It won't?
No.
Okay, but the infrastructure bill will.
That's correct.
So what's your recommendation? You're going to sleep at night with all these books. Should we sit on the money till we find out what they decide they're going to do with it?
He's gonna want us to pay him before he answers. Yeah, if we agree to engage them, that's the one recommendation to do it. That'll answer a lot of questions.
Now, that's a fair question, and sir, I would tell you, it depends what your goals are. I really can't answer that till I would hear what the board's goals are. And what's the urgent need of some things that you want to use these funds for.
We're going to pay you to tell us how to spend the money. We haven't got yet.
You did receive that.
We did. Well,
You'll receive the other half.
infrastructure bill,
What's it?
the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that my townships can get their hands on that. Like I said, we're not certain how that's going to be administered. The Fed, I can't imagine is going to try to administer them themselves.
Didn't you just say they are? Treasury?
Treasury monitors it. They're monitoring the American Rescue Plan. But in terms of administering funds, like who's going to hand the grants out, I'm not certain how a lot of these funds are going to go. There's hundreds of billions of dollars sitting in Harrisburg right now that's not getting out into the streets. For instance, utility and rental funds. Every county's sitting on millions and millions of dollars. I mean, I work with a lot of counties on those funding streams. They're going to be sending money back because they can't get it out into the streets.
Who's sending money back to who?
Counties will be. They're sending back to the Commonwealth. They can't spend the funds.
All right, good. I don't
But
know.
Don, there's one thing I did want to mention. One of the other things we do as part of this process, we actually do your lost revenue calculation for you. In our mind, as the regulations stand right now, that's one of the biggest risks you're going to have, because if you don't calculate it right and spend a little more freely than you should, then good chance you're going to be spending or sending funds back. So we do that for you all 4 years.
Is your payment going to be based on a percentage or a flat fee?
Flat fee.
And then, would you be looking to, I don't think you would go to bat for us to secure more funding moving forward, or no?
Yeah, anytime that I hear one of your goals fit a new funding stream that's out there, I'm going to make you aware of that.
Are you our contact person?
Yes.
Or do you have somebody else as?
I am.
I think for myself, you thought about the goals. It's hard to come up with objective goals without fully understanding what we can and cannot do with funds. So for me, it's not a matter of sitting down in a night or two and saying, here's our goals. I see this as a conversation that's going to take some time. I mean, we've got a lot of smart people that work for this township, and we have access to a lot of smart people who have, we've communicated to, the First Municipal Partnership Group you know, and they're all very cautious because none of them have the time to invest into understanding all of this documentation the way that apparently you have. You know, I just see it as very conversational. Yeah, we certainly have goals because we have a budget and we have a wish list of things we'd like to see accomplished. But to be able to kind of pick and choose and say, let's do this, I just see it more conversational until we have a really more in-depth understanding of what we can and cannot spend money on, because to your point, we certainly don't want to be sitting here, or somebody sitting here some years down the road and finding out that we did something inappropriately and all of a sudden we're on the hook for paying money back. Yeah, so.
So if you look at it like this, the roadmap in my mind would be, I would start with your lost revenue calculation before I would even come sit with you, because you can't strategize about these funds till you know what that number is, because that's kind of your least restrictive bucket. You have all these other more restrictive buckets. And so once you understand that, that's a good time to sit down and say, okay, here's our options. And I would sit down with you and walk you through that. And I think it helps it kind of come to fruition for you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, I think it's just one of those things where unless, you know, we hire 2 people to do it, I think this is, we'll do the best for the township and taxpayers, and we can use the money on some important infrastructure projects that the commissioner involves, if we can use it for certain things, infrastructure. So if there's no more questions, I would recommend a motion to enter into the agreement that Mr. Johnson's firm has passed along to the board to help Dawn manage our American Rescue Act money.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Guys have it so ordered, so Dawn, you have this information. All right, ready to.
Reach out to me when you get a chance. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, this is the first public portion, a time for residents, taxpayers of the township, comment on matters of concern, traditional actions, or deliberation, and before the Board of Commissioners. We do ask that you please just address the board so the board members can respond to your questions and concerns. So I do see we have 2 folks signed in from Willingham Avenue. First, Mr. Terry Schultz. Mr.
You're
Schultz?
Terry Schultz.
Yes,
Oh, no good.
I'm another Terry.
Yeah, you are. You're the Terry Schultz. I know got a whole lot of hair in his head.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, knock yourself
Mr.
out.
Schultz, would
I'm
you like
sorry.
to address the board with your
I'm
comments?
so sorry.
Regarding to
That's
noise,
fine.
and I believe some of the commissioners are somewhat aware. So go ahead.
I'm sure they are. To start with, I have a petition that some of my neighbors and on Willingham Avenue, and it's a petition for the excessive noise that's being developed by the, excuse me, by the APEC polyester company. And I don't know what I should do with this.
Here, I'll take it.
Okay,
You have a copy of this.
I do.
Yes.
And I apologize for I shut my phone off and my phone still works. I can't figure it out when I'm here. So anyways, so what I'd like to talk about tonight is I'll take as little time as possible and yet give you an overview of what's happening since this started. Back in May, I went to your website to go to Muhlenberg and submitted a complaint, an excessive noise complaint. Through and for the APEC polyester facility. And over a period of time, through conversations, emails, it went through May, June, July, August, all summer long. I've had some communications with them. And for some reason, it kind of went back to me that I should deal with APEC instead of the township dealing with it. And I kind of think I made a big mistake there. I should have just let the township deal with it and stayed out of it. But I didn't. So now I'm coming to you and saying that after all this time, I resubmitted because nothing really got done over all those summer months. And in September, I resubmitted the same thing all over again. September 28th, I resubmitted it through Go Muhlenberg and for the excessive noise again. So finally, in September 30th, APEC finally came up with what they called a solution, because they had a company come in and do a survey and were looking at what kind of mitigation they could do to reduce the noise. They wanted to reduce the noise, not eliminate it. And I don't think that's what I really want, or the neighbors in my neighborhood really want. They want it to go back to the way it was, where when you go back and you sit in your back porch, you can hear the birds and you can enjoy yourself, but you can't do that right now. So as I was going through that, the mitigation was done by a company that they hired, and they decided what they were going to do to reduce the noise. And they said, give me another 6, 8, 10 weeks. I said, okay, I'll do that. They said they would bi-weekly let me know what's going on. And that's been about 8 weeks, and I haven't heard a word from them since. So, okay, and next thing is in October, after getting the survey, they sent me a copy of the survey and the mitigation, and I went over it, and I had my, I guess you would say, my disagreement with what all the mitigations were and what they said they were going to do to correct it. And I sent a letter to them, to the company, and also to the township. And all these things, the township, there's a couple individuals that have been copied it. Everything that I sent to that company and sent to several people here in the township. Let's see, what's next? Okay. I submitted another multiple emails with my name, my address, my telephone number, and my email to ALPEC, I guess you want to say, ALPEC, and Muhlenberg Township, and tried again and again to get somebody to come to my residence to just see and hear what was going on in our backyard and our neighbors' backyards. Originally, the emails were sent to Joseph Mensch and Brian Harris. And later on, or recently, they've been sent to Steve Dunkel and Mr. Bobek. I guess from that, on November 9th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, a Ryan Kissinger came to my house and wanted to hear the noise. We went out back, the plant wasn't running. So, and so be it. Today, Brian came back. Plant wasn't running. So, and saying that, for the last 6 months, let's see where I gotta stop here a second. For the last 6 months, this has been the first representative that has visited my residence, that's tried to inspect, check, or kind of listen to what my issue has been. Both times the facility wasn't running, or because of the cold weather, maybe they turned fans off, don't need them right now, but I think the plant's not running. There's no noise whatsoever in my backyard. And this is precisely why I've asked someone to come and see what the issue is. And I started, this is back in May, June, July, August, September, or now November. I mean, it just hasn't quit. So that's the other reason for the petition. I went to my neighbors. Every one of my neighbors welcomed me and wanted to sign it. And also I had some issues about the light. And I don't know what the other issue is. I apologize for that. So saying all that, I'm here today to submit the petition and also say that all summer long, we haven't been able to use our backyards. We got to keep our windows closed. Got to keep our air conditioners on, because you can't go to sleep at night when a plant's running if you open a window. It's that noisy. And with that, I'll answer any questions that anybody has.
Terry, what kind of noise is it?
If somebody were there, I could show them. I I've got an audio on my phone. It's a loud roaring noise. It's what I would say, it's high-speed fans. And there's a lot of them, and they're all on the back wall. And the back wall of the facility actually faces the back of our homes. And it's to the point you can't have a conversation. Excuse me?
Outside fans or inside?
Fans are in the wall. So they're blowing, I assume they're blowing heat, blowing air outside the plant, not into the plant. Excuse me? The roof units, there's other things, there's all kinds of things. And my wife said, why don't you take, since nobody, and they did a decibel reading. I've done a decibel reading. And even in some of the paperwork that was received by the township and by Alpec, I showed what my decibel readings were. They were up to 90 decibels. That was a peak. That wasn't standard. They were probably, in the 58 to 60 range. And when the plant shut down, they're in the 38 to 40 range. Birds singing and the wind blowing, and that's it. So.
You said the plant's shut down. How often does it happen? And how many days of the week?
Well,
or
normally
hours?
the plant runs Monday through Friday. I have no idea what the schedule is. So recently it shut down like on a Thursday, and I think that's when Ryan Kissinger showed up, was on a Thursday, and I was all excited, went to the front door and said, oh, come on, let's go out back. Went out back, there was no noise.
Is it 24 hours a day?
Yep, 24 hours a day, yeah. Morning, afternoon, evening, all day long. If I go out in the front porch, I can't go out and enjoy, or back porch, I can't enjoy a cup of coffee on a regular day because it's that loud. I have friends over, we can't use I have a back porch, I have a covered deck, and I have a swimming pool. And we just haven't used it this year. And it's very, very disheartening.
So, Mr. Dunkel, from a township perspective, what is our legal, where are we at from a code enforcement standpoint? What have we done so far?
Right, so those department, I was only made aware of September 28th. Mr. Harris was obviously working on this prior to that. So with that said, we immediately looked into the condition. I reached out to Alpec on the 28th to their contact person we have out there. And they stated that they had an engineer detail done on the sound and the readings of that location. So within our ordinance, there is no specified decibel number. Our ordinance is very subjective. So they went with an industry standard. They had found that the industry standard, that the noise coming out of the facility was above the industry standard. And that they are going to put some sound baffling in it. And then they're going to test that sound number again and see if it alleviates that sound down to a reasonable number. Meaning the reasonable industry numbers at any given time within a municipality. Let's say your air conditioning units are in the summertime in any subdivision. The industry standard has specific numbers around 50 or so, where you would hear that on any given day in any municipality would direct that heating on throughout a winter day or during a normal sound in the subdivision where all somebody's air conditioners would be on that space. So that's a number they assign to it. It's kind of an industry standard. So as soon as they finish up installation of the baffles, they're going to retest and come back and say, does this meet an industry standard, or do we have to do more to abate the condition? So that's where we are with it. So we as a municipality can't come today to Alpec and say, yeah, we require you to bring us a decimal level. We don't have one assigned.
May I speak?
So most certainly.
The code that you have, it's 222.
Yep.
And that particular code says that the noise can't go past the property. Well, if it can't go past the property, you don't need a decibel reading. I mean, it's going to pass the property.
Technically, by state law, you would need a decimal reading.
Okay,
Unfortunately, right, I can't speak for Mr. Seth, who's
all right,
not here, but yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Besides that,
Court of law,
I've looked at that whole code, and the code also says if it's detrimental, disturbs, or bothers the neighborhood or the residents, it's also, that's your standard, not mine.
And I agree wholeheartedly with you. However, there's case law that states that for the Commonwealth, we would need to provide a way to quantify sound, which disturbing for you may not be for this
And
individual.
that's exactly
So
what,
that's
that's
so it's very
exactly what
subjective.
they're, that's
Yeah,
exactly what
and they
the
know
report
that, in other
says.
words, their attorneys know that, so.
And
Yeah.
saying that, I have a couple of neighbors that are with me,
Sure.
and it kind of said, what's disturbing to me might not be disturbing to the next
For sure.
person. So if I've got 6 people or 6 families that say it's disturbing, where does that leave me?
Right.
Where does that leave you?
For what it leaves us is we'd like them to abate the condition. Let's let them put their sound baffles and let's come back and recheck it. And just
Okay.
you would say, do you notice that the sound is different? And if they show up with a different number that's reasonable to an industry standard, are we accepting of that?
And-
But I have to give them that right to try that
Okay.
first. I'll get together with you. I'll give you my contact. You and I can meet. I'll come over anytime you like.
Okay,
Let's work them through the system. Let's see what they come up with as a reasonable number. If we stand there and say, wow, it doesn't sound like anything really changed, we'll go back to Outback and then we'll start the conversation and dialogue with them.
all right, and I agree with that. And one of the things in the report, it said that if they reduce it by 10 decibels, it could be half as loud. I'm thinking, well, you know, they're, I don't even understand that. Half as loud as what? If it's bothers me.
Well, an industry standard would be at any
Yeah.
given time, like I said, if everyone's air conditioner units go on in a subdivision, there would be a specific hum or a sound. Your
Okay,
neighbor's lawnmower tractor leaving his property in an industry standard is about 50.
and that's fine.
Right. So-
If it's going
yeah.
by and it's not there 24/7, I
Right.
don't care.
Right.
We have a train in my backyard that makes noise, that makes a house rattle. I don't care about that because it goes by and it's done.
Understood.
So, okay,
So all I'm trying to do is let them
I
finish out
understand
what
that.
they need to, and then you and I can have a conversation. Once they furnish the report that says, hey, we baffled this sound, let's take a look at here at baffle time and say, did it make a difference for you or not? And then we can get together at the drawing board with Outback and then have that conversation.
Okay,
See where
and-
we're at.
Because we're having this conversation, you read the rebuttal that I sent to them about their report?
I believe so.
Okay, so. as
How
long as you
long
want-
do they have to try baffle rooms? How long of time?
You know, there's no time frame from us on that. They are still on the process of commissioning the building. They do not have a full certificate of occupancy. They're working under a temporary. So there's other items within that space that they are completing for occupancy. So some of that noise, I'm not sure if it's a permanent or if it's part of their commissioning process. So they've been very good to work with as far as anything that we ask. They get back to us. I'm sure if we give them some conversation back and some dialogue, I'm sure they'll give us a time frame specific.
Can I just
For
say
that.
one more thing?
Sure.
They have lights all across the back of the building that shine out right into my bedroom.
Okay.
If they could like not shine lights in
It's
my
the
bedroom.
first time hearing
it'd be
about it. I
great.
certainly can bring that up to their attention to put some shielding and have that shine down on the ground. It's the first today that I'm hearing of that.
Yeah,
And they certainly could look into some shields.
Ma'am,
great.
your name, please. Ma'am, yes, your name.
Weber.
I'm sorry,
Linda Weber.
you're Linda. Okay, thank you.
And just for the public's reference, in it, as Terry said, it spiked at 90, which is the equivalent of a 737 for landing or a power motor or a motorcycle. The industry standard, as Steve said, is 50 decibels, which is a quiet conversation at home where large electrical transformers from 100 feet away or refrigerator kicking on.
Right, and
So-
please keep in mind also that the readings that Mr. Schultz is providing are off a cell phone app.
Right.
This is an engineering document with specific calibrated
I
tools.
verified that, let you know that.
Okay,
So,
I have the same app, it's would be no good as
and
far as.
I used 2 of them, so,
Right.
so I didn't pay for it, so.
Right,
I think, Steve, we
That's
just
all.
need to make sure that once the company comes back to say that they completed mitigation and testing, we just have to make sure that they're running all the fan, like they would in the summertime.
For sure.
Because now we're approaching winter.
absolutely.
Like you
The
said,
conditions
they're
are the
not
same.
running the same
We
thing.
understand, yeah, and we're well
Yeah.
aware of that, yes. And
I
we'll
know
make
you
sure
are.
that takes.
I just want to
place.
go.
Absolutely.
Is there an occupancy schedule? Do we know when they're gonna be?
We are, they're trying to finish up here before the end of the year. And COVID has set them back, off and on. They have a few minor items to take care of with us, including that sound baffling. It's fire protection items, as some new equipment was installed, and they need some protection items with me.
Okay, so
They're very close.
the sound baffling will go in prior to the end.
We're hoping to see it prior to the end of this year, but it would not surprise me if it ends up being in the the first quarter of next year.
But to answer your question, Commissioner, we will not issue a permanent
That's correct.
occupancy.
That's
permit.
correct.
So we have some leverage.
We do.
At least till they have the backland, that we will not issue the final occupancy permit until that has been just for final
That's for sure.
edification. We have, in the live escrow with them, so we have anything,
No.
No,
we don't. So that's as much as we can do is just
Okay,
continue to follow the case. and-
One last question. When Brian Kissinger came,
yes, sir.
he said the township doesn't have a decibel meter.
We do not have an established, we read the ordinance yet.
Okay. Seems like a simple piece of equipment to have. It would help us all.
We do not have an ordinance establishing a number, or a threshold or way to quantify sound.
No, but I mean the meter itself.
No, which I would not need to meter, because again, we do not have a threshold established to quantify sound. So a meter wouldn't do me any justice. I would require someone to provide that information from a specialist and certify it.
Okay.
I think with the question of the lighting, I think we probably have to go back to training commission notes. Because if I'm not mistaken, those things would have been discussed back at planning.
Yes.
You know, the planning commission would have approved lighting schemes. And then,
And it's pretty much all for the approval that's there. Now, obviously, as the building goes under construction, and trees and foliage falls down, people start to see lighting changes, and now's the time to make that complaint back to the builder. It's not common to have even a building that's approved, have some lighting issues.
right.
Or all of a sudden, a new building is there, it's 28 feet or 32 feet in height, and somebody goes, wow, I see a light now, I've never seen that before.
Right.
Now's the time to address it before fire certificate occupancy. It's first I'm aware of a lighting condition on the property.
And
We'll offer with it.
Thank you, folks. We'll continue to please with Steve and wait to hear from them and continue to follow the process as best we can to help you out. So we appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Apology too. I want to apologize. When I see the name Terry Schultz, he has his stand up at Reesport Market.
I know who he is.
All right, well, in any event, that's who I was expecting to see. That's why I was looking around the room when I came back in. I said to Jim, I said, he's not here.
We recording this now or not?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in, and we will do everything we can to try to help. Anyone else wants to speak on that? Mr. Weber, would you like to speak, or you're good for that situation?
I was going to speak, but Terry did fine. I don't usually make any sense when I talk anyway. This gentleman seemed to be very cooperative, which I certainly appreciate. All I would like, after living there for 30 years, and now having a building put back of me that goes 2.5 blocks and a half a mile that way, I'd just like to go to sleep some night, next spring and be able to sleep. That's all I'm asking for.
Understood.
Understood, absolutely.
And he's hard of hearing.
So am I, so, I'm not sure I expect, but we'll get somebody out there.
Thank you. Eva, I see Eva signed up. Eva Eisenbrow.
Thank you. I want to address traffic and signage. With the clocks going back now, Lysis Bridge, nobody seems to go the speed limit. And I know Brian Harris last year did put that measures,
Sure.
and it didn't seem to be that bad, but I don't know if after COVID, everybody feels that they can now go faster. It's becoming a problem, and people do walk at night with their dogs. And I've also noticed when I walk, it seems about 1 in 3 people do not stop at the stop sign at Elm and Lysis Bridge. So that's an accident waiting to happen. Gotta be something we can do.
We'll get the tracks unit back out and put a traffic detail on it.
Can we lower the speed limit? Do we have this? And not, nobody follows the speed limit that's there now, but
We've never found that to be I will talk to the chief, such a viable solution if they're speeding. Unless you think otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, if you do an official speed survey, they'll monitor all the speed and they'll determine the speed limit by what most people are doing for the most part, as long as the road can accommodate. So it doesn't really work very well.
And it's a short stretch till you get down to when the road curves, so people are going too fast. I mean, speed limit should be less, but the other thing is signage. When Amazon went in, I guess they put up a sign and private property or something, and they didn't get permission. So not too many trucks that I see miss the turn, but one truck did miss the turn the other night when I was coming back from good old Boscov's. And I followed him and he got all the way down to the turn. I pulled over, put my hazards on, and then went over to him and said, "Are you lost?" My husband almost had a fit when I told him I went up to a strange driver at 8 o'clock at night. And sure enough, he wanted to go to Summit Steel. So I said, "Well, back up, but watch out, there's a creek." And he did a great job, but you know, that's, road is not meant to handle that.
Yeah, well, one car's too many down, one truck's too many down Liza's Bridge, but we are working as we speak on a resolution, so.
We are, and we need permission from Med Ed to place the sign on their property, and we actually just sent a particular email. Amazon is done, primed, ready to go. They've got the sign designed. We're back to Med Ed again, getting permission to have the sign on
So
their
where do you
property.
want to put the sign on?
It's gonna be on the right-hand side of the Med Ed property across from Sophie House.
Oh, okay, right, where they did those garages.
Correct.
Okay,
They just
Yeah.
sent us a detail this week, as a matter of fact, exactly what the sign looks like. We're ready to go.
so that means it'll be up by the end of the year?
That means we need to wait for Med Ed
For Med Ed
to
to-
go ahead to install the sign on their
Yeah,
property.
all the red tape associated with that.
Does anybody know anybody at Minute?
We do.
Okay, good. All right, that's it. Thank you.
We're not doing my arch.
That's-
I wanted to put an arch up so they couldn't drive under it at all. Welcome to Muhlenberg and make sure they're trucking it, but they don't want to do it either. I don't know.
There's a bridge.
Well, maybe when we get that extra money.
There you go.
It was a piece of.
Mr. Hunter, yeah.
Mr. President, I apologize. We did not get a photo. This is a photo op.
Oh,
Can
okay.
I get a photo with you?
Sure. You want the whole board?
Well, sure.
Come on, guys, let's go. It's all our part.
It's your board.
Sorry, everybody.
My apologies.
Where do you want
Sunset.
Fountains out.
No.
Well, now I'm in the middle, oh geez.
Okay, gentlemen, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more each, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. All the best. Great part.
Thank you, sir.
It's easy.
Good to see you again, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, before we get into the consent agenda, I do know Commissioner Wilkman here said, Melissa, that you had a presentation and you want to talk something regarding the budget for the library. So I think it's probably the appropriate time to do it. Unless Commissioner Wilkman was misinformed.
Hello. Yes, so we had talked, I had a meeting the other day with Jim Bobeck and Steve Wolfinger, and we talked a little bit then, but we couldn't make the actual budget meeting because of the fact that we were doing the Harvest Fest here. So the library is just requesting an increase in the funding for this next coming year, part because of the increase in the population that the census data shows. To help support the community, we would need more funding. This is to help the money we receive from the township, from the county is affected by how much of money we receive from the township. And so we would like to stay above, we're currently above the more than $2.50 per capita for our municipalities that we serve. And we would like to stay above that for future. In order to do that, we were asking for an increase in our funding. So currently you guys give us a $55,000 donation to the library and then do a matching with $10,000 on top of that. We're asking for that to increase by 10,000 total, so 65,000 as the initial contribution and to the matching $10,000 still on top, so that we can have a possibility of getting up to $75,000 for the library to support us. This also will help us because we have a hard time competing, providing jobs for our staff and keeping consistent staff, because there's a lot of jobs in the area that are now offering a lot more money than we can offer with our current amount of money that we receive. And we can't really increase our product because we don't make a product that we can do that for. So we're looking for our contributions to increase so that we can provide a living wage for our staff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does any-
If you don't get this 10,000, you'll lose what, another 5 from the.
Yeah, no, it's hard to estimate exactly because there's a lot of things that influence what the future monies will be, but it's approximately the equivalent of what would be $5,000 to $6,000 that we received this past year. We would lose without receiving that $2, more than $2.50 per capita amount from our municipalities. So we would lose. It has less money from the township, but also less money from the county as well.
Your turnover is due to what, the hourly wage is around $9 an hour.
Right, our incoming rate is $9, and then we try to bump up, for different kinds of experience or different responsibilities that staff get. But we start at 9 versus someplace like Walmart or 15, which we really can't compete with. But we at least like to be able to move it up a couple dollars per hour for our staff and try to keep people more long term.
So the increase that you're asking for will be going to wages?
Correct, yes. We have to provide, basically it's, our budget is about 68 to 70% wages, personnel costs, and then about 12% for collection development that were required by the state, and that leaves a remainder for everything else, from toilet paper to paper for, printing ink and that kind of stuff.
I have a copy of your budget journals and the income that they get from the state and Laureldale, Muhlenberg, and a couple other different agencies is $192,000. Then they make up the rest through dues and whatever, and that comes to their budget is annually is like $276,000. Is that right?
We're at like 230 now, looking for to increase for next year to
Is
yes.
it 222?
Yes.
So it's, I'm amazed every time when I go to the library as to what they do for $230,000. It's a great service that they provide for people that older people that don't have Wi-Fi. They can come in, look for jobs using computers there. They work with young kids that toddlers. They have English second language that they run a number of really good community programs. I know the school at one point was looking to use that building for administration, and I heard at the last school board meeting that this point is not going to take place, and I heard from the superintendent that he values the library, and this was a real concern to me because we put $65,000 here in the line, and we invest in the library, and I think the school district should be doing the same thing because their kids are using that library. And I was happy to see that they are not going to at this point ask them to leave that building because I don't know where they would go.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have an alternative location at this time. We were asked to be.
Is it Mike Coleman?
Maybe I'm not speaking about it. I don't know.
Any questions for Melissa? Because tonight we needed to start. So let's just so I'm there for perpetuity. You're asking for this now the funding level to increase because of the now county mentioned population requirement. We would have to go 75,000. You have to provide that because of the county's funding mechanism, that he wouldn't be able to operate effectively without the increase.
It's in part because of the county's contribution that would decrease, as well as the fact that we are looking to be able to provide a better rate for our staff.
And for my own knowledge, and I think you probably answered this before, but besides the building, the school district doesn't provide any direct financial contribution.
Correct. Most school districts do not support public libraries.
Gotcha. Which is
So we're just glad that they offer us the ability to use the building.
Any other questions for Melissa? The question would be is to, obviously, don't want to adjust the budget if the board, the majority of the board is in favor of increasing the contribution. So I guess I need to know from the board perspective, who is in favor of, or not in favor of increasing that to 75,000.
Questions. But to be clear, the request is for 65,000. So you continue to get that, so you continue to get funding from the county. Then we put the additional 10,000 is the caveat that they match the 10,000. So the request is, a line item is specifically 65,000, correct?
With the continuation of the matching.
Sure.
Because if we lose, because it's actually a little bit more than the 65 that we would need in order to get that to more than 250 per capita.
Okay.
But I think we can reach that with the match.
Our population went from 19 to
5 to 22,000.
Our total population that we serve is 30,000 and a little over 30,000.
but you're getting contributions from Laurel.
Well, yes. Looking at Exeter, they do over $5 per diem per capita. Spring Township, there's a number of other municipalities that keep over the $5 range.
Yes, the state actually, that's what the state asks that municipalities do, support $5 per capita. We're, we've been lucky that the county has been providing funding because that's allowed us to sort of not meet that and still function as a library.
So I would need a motion for that. Should we do it now, I guess, instead of, we should do it now, I guess, to increase the library contribution per commissioner, which is wonderful explanation.
Or no other questions or discussions, any other discussions?
Where would the money be coming from? The same line item?
It would just increase our deficit by 10,000.
We'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for waiting. All right. I need a motion to approve the entire consent agenda.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Can I make a comment about our last board meeting?
Sure.
There was Colleen Russo was here and she mentioned the fact that 11th Avenue is, there's a lot of traffic because of Hay Road apartments. And I mentioned just a thought that maybe looking at 11th Avenue being so narrow, it's basically a one-lane road. She was complaining that cars were coming both ways past because they're trying to get to that area of town. I mentioned that maybe 11th Avenue should be a one-way street, and then that would eliminate a lot of that traffic. And the minutes basically says that I recommended a left turn only on the Kutztown Road, which I don't think would solve anything.
Okay.
But I don't know, what we can do with that. I know that there is a lot of traffic on that road, and it really is very bad.
Can you give us a recommendation, Jim?
We can look into performing a very minor traffic study. That's probably out of the TRAPS's realm, isn't it? Directional traffic, and we can take a look at it.
Put a counter out at least. All right.
Well, that we can do via the tracks, but to know directional flow, I don't know if the tracks will have that ability. But
Take a lawn chair. Yeah, I do think I wanted to address it a little based on her feedback. At least one way or another, we do nothing or we do something, but I think we owe it to the resident and update the minutes, please, Marcia, if you could.
That was never designed to be a street.
Yeah,
That was a trolley tracks.
thank you, Commissioner. I had one quick comment on the consent agenda, the chief, and once again, a fantastic report. I know that Commissioner Lopia. I do have some concerns about a very early school year and our responses that seem to continue to be drawn to our high school and our intermediate school. So unfortunately, I think it's only going to get, worse. Our guys are doing a great job. I know they're responding, but I don't know if it's the point in time where we approach the school district once again about funding a school resource officer, and we don't have to talk about it now, but if I could, bend your ear maybe over the next month, because, it's coming up more and more and more. We're very early in the school year, which is a little concerning. And you guys are so busy right now with everything else in our community. So I'd just like to get your thoughts before I would make any recommendation to the board. Yeah, it's crazy. Even the one on the bus was just nuts. I just wanted to let the board know I was going to have that conversation with the chief, because it is concerning that. So, but very great report again. It really, I'm glad we get to see that in detail. So, any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any, the ayes have it. So ordered. Any unfinished business? New business. I guess at this time, before we get into it, I don't see anywhere else about the advertise the budget, but I'll read our town 2022 Muhlenberg Township budget address. The Board of Commissioners held a budget workshop on Saturday, October 23rd, 2021, to review the draft budget and make tough decisions regarding the appropriation of township funds. Today, November 15th, the Board of Commissioners will vote on a 2022 preliminary budget. This year's operating budget shortfall total approximately $1 million. To balance the 2022 general fund budget, the board has decided to increase the real estate tax millage by 0.2 mils. This is equivalent to $20 for every $100,000 of assessed home value, and use unrestricted reserves of $730,960. For the last 6 years, the township has maintained and improved upon the level of service to our residents without a tax increase. However, due to the pandemic, the shortfall in total revenues and increases in expenditures, the board has decided that a nominal tax increase was needed. Over the past 2 years, our cash reserves was decreased from use of reserves to balance the budget. This cash reserve balance is utilized each year to purchase many capital items for police, public works, parks, equipment needs, and improving the township roads and other capital projects. General fund budget does include increased wages for the Teamsters and police per their collective bargaining agreements, and also non-uniform staff, 5.7% increase in healthcare benefits, no increase in trash and recycling fees for continuation of our senior citizen discount rate will continue, and the hiring of 2 much-needed police officers for our police force. The fire and ambulance services, the township continues to be very committed to Muhlenberg 66 volunteer fire company to effectively serve our community, providing funds to pay their operating costs together with equipment replacement. Muhlenberg Township is blessed with a solid pool of volunteers. This commitment also extends to the Muhlenberg Ambulance Association. Over the past several years, the Ambulance Association has operated on a deficit to decrease in membership and revenues from services. As a result, the township has decided to assess a real estate millage increase of 0.1 mils to help fund the Ambulance Association. If you're familiar, we had a very lively discussion at our budget workshop. Per the first class township code, we are permitted to allocate a percentage of millage to the Ambulance Association. I want to thank the board and the township staff for its work and input preparing the support policy document. The preliminary budget is adopted by the board today. It will be available for public inspection in the township office, also on our website. I would imagine that final adoption will be scheduled at the December 20th Board of Commissioners meeting. So obviously, those who attended or watched or knew it was every year, it's an extremely difficult task. For 6 years, we were able to fight through being able to keep the level of service we could. It's just that now the whole operating whole is just getting too large. And when you get too large of an operating hole, you're looked at in case we have a major catastrophe or project happen, that you have to go secure money outside of your normal operating procedures. You know, the banks don't look at you as favorably, as we have one of the best financially strong bond ratings in Pennsylvania. So we have to make sure we continue in that direction. And I think the board has been extremely responsible over the past 6 years and is continuing by to do this modest increase that we don't take lightly. So I'll just turn it over real quickly for any of the board members for their comments. So feel free to speak about the budget, and then we'll vote on it we'll vote on item B, then when we're done.
Everything's going up. And then, you know, we can't keep, it's not realistic to keep tapping savings and our reserves. So I think 6 years is quite a long time. Think about it. I think it's prudent, and for what you get out of the dollar bill that's spent, you know, it's needed in this case, it's warranted. So.
Commissioner Arnall.
What can I say? We didn't have much choice. That's pretty much it. We would have had a better choice factored with the COVID thing and a few other, the economy dropping. Not much choice. So I hate to, $20 is $20 to me. I hate to put it up, but we gotta do it. Don't have any choice.
Commissioner Lynch.
Yeah, this is probably one of the toughest budget discussions we've had in a long time. You know, there were a couple of years that I had to argue towards an increase. You know, we still did our due diligence, but you know, my argument has always been, if we look to raise the tax incrementally in small amounts, rather than come back and try to do one large amount. So even with this increase, it's still fairly minute. I mean, all things considered. You know, and I don't think this is going to be the last tough budget discussion we have. You know, we're entering into an area or in a time of inflation. You know, that's been on the news quite a bit lately. We're getting a lot more data from our fire company, you know, as to what those expenses are. And you know, we've talked about trying to hold those items in line. But as we start to have more insight into the operation of the fire company and what it takes to run the fire company, even with our merger and the actions that we've taken to keep those expenses down, I think, you know, when we sit down and do the budget next year, we're going to have a really good picture of what that expense looks like. So I would think, you know, we will probably look again to see a minimal increase again next year. And with the ambulance association, you know, we've given money to them, but you know, and we've had a lot of tough discussions with the ambulance association over the last couple of years too. But they're in dire straits too. So you know, we've held the line on the number of police officers that we've had, but we just heard that our population has been increasing. You know, and we've been trying to service this township with the same number of police officers for I don't know how long. So it was some very, very tough decisions. And, you know, we're all against having to tap into savings to have to balance budget, because sooner or later you have to start putting money back into your savings. So the Commissioner Malinowski's point, it's also important to keep those ratings, our ratings very solid. So that if we do have to go borrow money, you know, we can. So it's just tough to put an increase through, but it's about as palatable as we can make it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wolf.
Well, I think this board is looking at the township like we run our households. And we really are looking out for where we spend our money. And we're spending money on on not wants, but needs. And we're looking at the cost of doing business, and it's just gone up. And to Commissioner Lurch's, he was right a couple of years ago. He wanted to raise it 0.1, and we voted against that. And I guess there was a good reason to increase the rates by 0.1 mil instead of 0.3 mils 3 years later. But I always think that when a government gets money, they spend it, and they don't spend it wisely. A lot of this CARES money that's going out, I have a lot of problems with that, because you have it, you spend it, you don't want to send it back. And that goes against my brain. But I just want everybody in the audience to believe that we're looking out for our money. And the 0.3 mils probably wasn't big enough, because we had $1 million deficit. Well, 0.3 mils isn't going to cover $1 million. So we have to continue to look for dollars, how we spend it, and our staff does a great job with what we give them, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, my only comments just for the budget address. Also, I thank the board, the staff for all their work. And for those besides, and I don't want to say neglected the police department, but it was time we invested in the police department and ensure that the chief has the appropriate personnel to do what most important to us and protect our community. If you look at our FT, our full-time employee equivalent count over the last 6-7 years, it's been pretty flat for how many roads we've gotten paved, how much IT we've enforced, one of the investments in our codes department. We've done a lot of stuff without raising millage in 6 years, donations to the library and our fire department merger and hiring a part-time chief. So I think the board honestly should be extremely proud. And no one wants to pay more money for anything else, but you also want the police to show up when you call, or the ambulance to get there. Or, if you can't afford it, to go to the library for internet service, or make sure your road's paved. So or deal with the noise ordinance, that we're able to have the appropriate enough staff to do that. So do a lot of work for 10% of your tax dollar. So I just thank everybody truly, and from everyone from our customer service staff to everyone out in the field. It's a lot of work that gets done. So I'll shut up now and I need a motion to authorize Mr. Shepherd to advertise the 2022 budget as read through the township budget address.
Very.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. I'll go back to A quickly. I need a motion to approve the payment of bills presented by the Director of Finance and Customer Service.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to authorize Mr. Selly to advertise an ordinance to adopt the 2018 Property Maintenance and Fire Code.
Move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to authorize Mr. Selly to advertise an ordinance to adopt the 2018 Uniform Construction Code.
Move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to authorize the Public Works Superintendent to solicit bids to construct a salt storage bin at a price not to exceed $200,000.
Move.
Second, but I have a question.
Sure.
Where?
I was going to allow Jeremy, if you could, Mr. our Public Works Superintendent, sent the board several recommendations. Recommendation 1 was, I believe, down Felix Dam, Jeremy.
Yeah, so it's, would be Upper Felix, the end of Tuckerton Road. If you come down Tuckerton, it basically goes straight into our driveway there. We have the garage that's back there now, would be facing that garage to the left side of it. Pretty much out of the way, you got the river behind you, it sits down in, so there wouldn't be a lot of noise. And it would really benefit 3 of our largest plow zones. River Road being the worst, needing salt because of the moisture coming off the river. That's right at the edge of that plow zone. So it would really benefit guys from having to run clear from River Road area, Mike's neighborhood, Kevin's neighborhood, all the way over to Leesport Avenue to get salt every, call it 20 minutes, half an hour in the thick of things. So it alleviate a lot of that. Wouldn't necessarily be increasing an enormous amount of salt we keep on hand. We would kind of split it, so it'd be less, wouldn't be more that we're stocking and sitting on. It would just be spread on two sides of the township.
Just for the public's, notification is when we get large snowstorms, we don't have a whole lot of manpower. We just can't have people sit around all year waiting for it to snow. So when they have to plow over on the River Park side, the west side of the community, they have to drive all the way back to Leesport Avenue to fill up for salt and come all the way back. When you're on the plow for 14 hours with 24 inches of snow, it's a real tough thing to do, believe me. So we thought that this would be a good investment to take out our capital funding to source some efficiencies with our folks to clear our roads. So it's tough to do stuff like this because it may not snow, but unfortunately, this is deterred our ability to have our guys, out on the road, that they don't have to be out there longer. So
Describe a $200,000 salt plant, please.
It is roughly,
This is covered, is it like a pole building?
yeah, it's a three-sided building. Basically, what we already
Three-sided
have,
building, okay,
just smaller than ours.
all right,
Would be more up to specs where that's supposed to be covered. So there would be some sort of a covering on the front, whether it's a curtain that comes down to ground level that you would open up to get salt, so rain doesn't get on it, but it'd be a little more updated than what we already have. You're looking roughly at like a 48-foot by 32-foot by 18-foot pole barn, three-sided.
all right, for loading purposes, is there gonna be, you're talking about putting a machine in there that's gonna be covered up during storms?
There would be a machine for, if a snow event, either we could leave one there, we could rent one. I don't recommend using a backhoe because it's a front end motor machine. I recommend renting another wheel loader for down there. That you rent for the 3 months of the winter. And it would, that way we won't have a place to put it under roof. So if you're renting it, you don't need it under roof, you don't own it.
thank you, Jeremy. Any further questions for Jeremy?
No issues with runoff or anything like that, it's gonna be covered.
No, the other thing that would really help is part of this, we probably would be able to pave that parking lot at one of our park facilities. That is a stone lot right now, so it would actually benefit us.
And with that 200,000 comes some site improvements as well, towards stormwater stress.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No, if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to approve payment application number 18, Vault Construction, in the amount of $39,977.09 for work associated with the Public Works Building.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to approve payment application number 1 to CMS in the amount of $23,042.25 for work completed on the
Fifth Street revitalization project.
Fifth
My
Street.
apologies.
revitalization project.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those any, the ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to approve the reduction to the Hay Road Apartments letter of credit in the amount of $394,995.71.
Second.
Are we positive? Everything's good there, Steve?
We're still holding money.
Yeah.
That's not a complete.
That's not complete.
Yeah,
All right,
we have 3 other buildings to go get.
okay. I just saw the number, I didn't see that. I saw, it was recommended by SDE too, right?
Yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes if any. The ayes have it, so ordered. I need a motion to authorize the Public Works Superintendent to solicit bids for the 2022 snow piling RFP.
Seconded.
Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. No, if any, the ayes have it, so one new business item for our January meeting, the Board of Commissioners will hold their reorganization meeting, and they're only meeting January 3rd at 6 p.m. To swear in, and congratulations to Commissioner Imhoff and Commissioner Lurch, who were both successfully reelected. So congratulations, but I need a motion to approve that meeting date.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Noes, if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. I don't think any board appointments at this time. Anyone wish to speak under the second and final public portion? All right. Go ahead.
We have some more roads coming this month, right?
We're in the middle of that project. We're halfway through, 13 roads milled, and paving comes in Thursday, right behind it.
Thank you.
All righty, Mr. Dunkel, you want to start staff comments?
No comment, this time all is good.
The next issue of the Township Magazine will be out at the beginning of December, most likely the first week. And any inclement weather changes will be posted on the website, social media, and
Chairman, any other? Donna? Chief?
But just for information, this Friday, the police department is going to be sponsoring a food drive. We're going to be parking a police SUV outside some of our local establishments that sell groceries and kind of asking people if they want to stuff the SUV with non-perishable foods for the upcoming holidays. And we'll be helping Harvest to make sure they have enough food for distribution.
You have a list of the locations.
It's on our website.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
just so you know where to find it.
Yep, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we're going to be rotating the SUV to different places. So we don't have a firm schedule.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Novak?
The only comment I have is that the planning commission meeting will be held here on Wednesday night, starting at 7 p.m.
Commissioner Lurch, you're first.
We talked about two things tonight. I referenced, well, we as a body referenced two meetings. One was the budget meeting, and I also referenced planning commission meetings. So we're here to help the residents. We're trying to do our very best to make Muhlenberg Township a wonderful community to live, play, grow, work. And I think everybody that's involved in the township, either in elected position, our staff, and our volunteers who serve on our other boards do a tremendous job. I wish that the public would turn out for those meetings. You know, when we talk about new developments, you know, like the plant, for instance, you know, there's a lot that goes into those meetings. And unfortunately, the public doesn't come to weigh in. They don't come to zoning hearing board meetings. You know, I've been to a couple of planning commission meetings. The public doesn't show up. And that would be a great time to come and address issues when the folks who are looking at approving these plans, you know, when we would talk beforehand about things like noise or what kind of impacts there would be. Not that everybody that comes into the community, not that businesses that come into the community come in with the idea that they're going to disrupt livelihoods, but those things do happen. And, you know, it becomes, I think, more difficult to try to mitigate some of these things on the back end. You know, and, you know, again, we're going to do everything possible we can to help the situation. But at planning commission meetings, that would be a great time to ask those kind of hard questions. Our planning commission does a wonderful job asking questions, but to have that interaction with the public, I think would just build much more confidence into the entire process of bringing somebody into this township, businesses into the township. The same thing with the budget meeting. I mean, budget meetings are long and they can be very boring. Eva was there. Thank you for showing up. You know, but it's just disheartening to sit here because I know on the back end, we're gonna have a lot of people complaining that you're raising the taxes, but nobody shows up to listen to that discussion. So it's just disheartening. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight and to come to these meetings, you know, because your interaction with us is very important. It helps us make decisions, it helps us stay in contact. So I appreciate the fact that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Info.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is coming up. We have a lot of things to be thankful for, especially as township. One of the things that's under discussion right now is the possibility of increasing the water rates at the Muhlenberg Township Authority. I happen to sit on that board. Not a whole lot we can do about that either, because the price of the chemicals to treat water and what have you are skyrocketing. I understand they're 100, 125% higher than what they used to be. Like everything else, that's going crazy. So I hate to do that too, but there's almost nothing that you can do about it. You don't have to pay your bills. When you go to the grocery store, you see the prices going up. It's not much. Well, we do have a lot to be grateful for. We have 15 wells in this township. And we've got a great staff, not only with Public Works, I'm kind of the liaison to that crew. We've got a great crew out there doing a job. The streets look fabulous. The leaves are being picked up. All of those things that you kind of take for granted, they're being done. You're paying for it. We're all paying for it. But these guys are getting the job done. I'm proud of Public Works and that crew, the entire staff, of course, but also proud of the Muhlenberg Township Authority crew. When you're when a sewer breaks or whatever, in the middle of the night, those guys are out there repairing it. And same way with water. If you don't have water or sewer, these guys are getting the job done. And it's we have a great crew. And we have a lot to be thankful for. We just received that award for Jim Dietrich Park. People in the other municipalities in this county are envious of that park. It's the nicest park in the county, period. And but it's ours to enjoy, but it does take money to keep it. Shape that sense. You take a look at those lawnmowers. I mean, they're running all summer long trying to keep the grass cut back. It's just something that we have to do. So this Thanksgiving, thankful for everything we're blessed with.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wolfen.
I see our fire chief in the audience. Larry, raise your hand. Commissioner Malinowski made reference to the police report, and every month I read that, I shake my head at some of the things our guys do. And we hired a lot of new police officers, and these new guys are just doing a great job in domestic fights and I mean, some of the things I hope we're having fun because they very dangerous. I mean, the calls are unbelievable. They had over 2,000 calls this past month. It's always been like 1,100 or something to that extent. 2,000 calls this month. And I wish you guys in the audience, and I know Kevin was preaching to the choir because you guys always seem to be here every month, and I appreciate that. I wish you could take a look at this police report redacted, but they really do a tremendous job, and we'd be proud of them. Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
Commissioner Lataya.
Yeah, I can concur completely with my previous the previous commissioners, especially in regards to the police. Pretty proud about that. You know, our population did increase, and for many years there, there was, you know, the number of officers on the street stayed flat. It stayed the same. So you have an increasing population with the same amount of guys, and their calls are going up. and they're still responding. So very, very, very proud of that. Commissioner Imhoff mentioned, you know, we have Thanksgiving upcoming, and it's a special time of year, and suggest that everybody will look inward and realize that, you know, here in Muhlenberg, we are in a pretty good shape comparatively to other townships and municipalities in the county. And that's something to be thankful for. You know, be thankful for your family, your friends, and everything that comes along with that. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner. All this Thanksgiving, I'm so hungry right now. So, honestly, I'm gonna talk about my own work with my own employees. Last Thanksgiving, quite frankly, just sucked, right? We were all locked down, we couldn't see family and friends, so do everything you can to really take advantage of this one as best you can to be safe. But last year, we were all kind of in a whole different world that we're fighting out of. So thankful to see everybody here. Have a wonderful evening, be safe, and we'll see you next month.